There is a widely accepted cultural narrative that Rhaenyra Targaryen is a tragic feminist icon. She is often viewed as a rightful ruler robbed of her birthright by a deeply misogynistic society, an heir who wielded overwhelming power but was ultimately defeated by forces beyond her control. It is true that she faced severe systemic obstacles. The deeply entrenched patriarchy of Westeros actively resisted a female ruler, and the Hightower faction worked relentlessly to mine her claim from within the Red Keep. But those struggles existed alongside massive built-in advantages. She was King Viserys' hand-picked heir, explicitly backed by a royal decree, the immense wealth of Dragonstone, and absolute supremacy in dragon riding power. Yet those advantages weren't enough to secure her seat. Even with the deck stacked against her, Rhaenyra's own political decisions created a series of obstacles that her royal status alone couldn't overcome. She failed to grasp a basic rule of power. To successfully change the rules of a rigged system, you must first become a master of its game. Consider her most direct rival, Alicent Hightower. Alicent recognized the brutal, rigid customs of the court, and she meticulously submitted to them to secure her own influence. Rhaenyra, however, consistently used her privilege to bypass those exact rules. Rhaenyra operated under the belief that the Iron Throne would simply be handed to her because her father issued a decree. She assumed that her status as the named heir removed the need for the daily, tactical work of building political capital. This approach reached a breaking point with the birth of her children. She presented 3 sons who lacked any distinct Valyrian features, an open secret she expected the entire realm to quietly ignore. The consequences here were strictly political. By insisting on a blatant falsehood, she handed her enemies the exact legal and political ammunition they needed to challenge her line of succession the moment her father was gone. She treated King Viserys as a permanent shield from consequence. Relying on him to silence her critics created a false sense of security that would evaporate the moment his protection was removed. As the whispers around her children's parentage grew louder, the political environment in the Red Keep became increasingly toxic. Instead of staying to defend her position and influence the court, she chose the comfort of isolation and moved her household to Dragonstone. Looking at this map, we track the cost of that retreat. As her power node moves away from the King's Landing hub, she physically surrenders the small council, treasury, and access to the king. The Hightowers immediately exploited this vacuum, monopolizing the bureaucracy. An heir who voluntarily abandons the capital has effectively abdicated their power long before the first sword is ever swung. Isolated on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra needed to project strength and secure powerful military support for the coming conflict. The standard playbook was straightforward. Use her royal status to forge a strategic marriage pact with a major neutral noble house to build a massive coalition. Her actual choice was to marry her uncle, Prince Daemon, a notoriously chaotic figure who was already violently despised by half the realm. This network web illustrates how that decision affected her standing. When a child was later assassinated in the capital, Rhaenyra took the blame. Her potential alliance connections to other houses violently snapped, leaving her tethered only to Daemon, and branding her a leader unable to control her own violent faction. The Daemon marriage was an ego-driven choice that actively alienated the very lords she needed to win a civil war. Rhaenyra's story is often framed as a tragedy of circumstance, but her career as an heir reveals a leader who consistently struggled with the practical demands of governance. She demanded the absolute power of the crown while frequently avoiding the difficult, unglamorous duties required to maintain it. Relying on a birthright and the raw power of dragons creates a fragile foundation for any ruler who lacks the ability to build a coalition. You cannot demand the world bend to your will simply because you believe it is your right. If you refuse to learn the rules of the game you are forced to play, the game will ultimately destroy you.